From the creators of the hit kids podcast Who Smarted and Netflix Brainchild comes the adventurous world of mysteries about true histories, affectionately known as math. Every episode follows Max and Molly, who've just been recruited into a secret order of problem solvers on an adventure through time, packed with puzzles, hidden equations, history, and laughs, making learning cool. It's perfect for ages 6 and up, and new episodes drop every Thursday, each stacked with so much laughter that your kiddos won't even realize how much they're learning. Episodes are about 15 minutes, the perfect length for car rides, meal times, break times, and bedtime. Every episode follows two best friends, Max and Molly, and they work together to solve riddles and math equations during their time-traveling adventures. Episodes transport listeners to moments in history like Pythagoras' ancient Greece, the era of the Aztecs, Sir Isaac Newton's England, and more. The goal of math is to weave humor and education together so that kids won't even realize they're learning. We loved Who Smarted, so tune in to Mysteries About True Histories with your kids, and you can follow and listen on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your pods. It's sure to please your family as much as it's pleased ours.
If I'm talking to a depressed kid, the most important message that I'm giving them is that there are things that you do that make your mood worse. There are things that you do that make your mood better. And we're learning how to navigate those different feelings, those changes, so that you don't begin to believe that this feeling state is permanent. And that's where the parental interrogation, escalating of, why are you feeling this way? We have to solve the problem. We have to get rid of it, versus it's okay that you're feeling this way, and let's talk about how you're going to move through it. That's the key difference.
Welcome to Season 6 of Flusterclux with Lynn Lyons, where we talk about a family's anxiety and all the big feelings, too. We tackle the serious stuff without being too serious, and I'm your co-host, Robin. I'm Lynn's sister-in-law, and I'm here to ask your questions.
And I'm Lynn Lyons. I'm an anxiety expert, speaker, mom, and author, and I've been a therapist for over 30 years. Parenting can be a Flusterclux, and I'm here to help you find your way. I'll give you concrete steps to take and the words to say. Robin, I have a story to share because I think it's a good example of something that's really common, indicative a little bit of a parent's worry coming out. And also, you know how much I talk about staying out of the content. This little anecdote, I think, sort of sums that up. I was giving a talk the other night, and at the end, I did a Q&A, which I often do. And this mom raised her hand. And she was talking about how her teenage daughter can get stressed out about things. And she said, I really want her to be able to articulate what she's upset about. I really want her to tell me. So she was upset, and I was asking her, what's going on? Why are you upset? Tell me, because she came home and the mom said the daughter clearly looked upset, clearly looked stressed out. And the mom was like, tell me what's going on. And the daughter's like, I don't want to talk about it. And this mom was saying, how do I get her to talk about it? How do I get her to tell me what's going on? And I said, well, what happened? And she said, well, she didn't want to talk about it. And she said for me to leave her alone, which I did, probably reluctantly. And she said, then her daughter said, I'm going to go outside. I'm going to take the dog for a walk. I'm going to go for a run, whatever. The daughter came back, addressed the problem that she needed to deal with, which was she was frustrated about an academic project. And then later on was able to say to her mom, oh, I was so frustrated about my math project that I had to do, and I just needed some time away, and now I figured it out. So I said, well, that's fantastic that your daughter did that. So your daughter said, I'm dealing with this. She went and did something. She went outside. She moved her body. She came back in. She got her body and her brain ready to be able to problem solve. So inside I'm thinking like, what's the problem here? But the mom was really concerned or felt like she needed to do something because her daughter wouldn't tell her in the moment what she was upset about.
This is chock full of many lessons here. I love this.
Yeah, chock full of many lessons. So there's a few things going on. I talk a lot about emotional literacy. The importance of kids being able to talk about their feelings, to be able to put words to their feelings. And that is a really important skill. But that doesn't fall into this category because what this mom wanted the daughter to do was to explain the content of why she was stressed out.
This is what I love about this. Emotional literacy is a goal, but the fact that the daughter was aware that she was stressed and then consciously chose to do something about that stress, that showed an emotional self-awareness and emotional literacy that she had with herself. And that wasn't contractually obligated to be forthcoming to the mom. The mom wanted to know the content of this, but the daughter was managing the pattern of being upset perfectly.
Yes. And so what I said to the mom was like, well done. You've gotten to the place that we want our kids to get to.
Or her daughter got to the place where we want our kids to get to.
Yes, that's a good correction. Her daughter had gotten to the place where we want our kids to get to, that at 15, she could say, Mom, I am stressed about something. I don't really want to talk to you about it right now. So she's acknowledging she's stressed, like that's emotional awareness. And then she went and did something that actually was helpful to her. So that's really helpful.
To help her manage the emotion. And then she was ready to have a conversation about the whole incident, not being in that emotional moment. She's like, yeah, I was really upset about this thing at school.
Right. So what was really great is that this 15-year-old daughter was saying, I'm really stressed about something. I am handling it. And then she went and did the things she needed to do to handle her stress. And then she came back and problem solve. So all of that is fantastic. The reason that this story is so illustrative is because when we are anxious, when we want to know what our kids are stressed about, when we ask those questions, that's just a very typical place to get stuck because we feel like the content of what our kids' worry is the most important thing. And when a child or a teenager or a partner says, I know I'm stressed, or I know I'm sad, or I know I'm frustrated, or I know I'm worried, but I don't want to talk about the content right now, that's okay. Because what we hope that we see as the next step is that then they do the things they need to do in order to manage their emotions.
Right.
And it might not include you as the parent. That's the hard part.
Exactly. The hard part is that the mom's anxiety is seeking certainty and information in this anecdote. She can't let her daughter be in her own space doing her own thing. Her anxiety is like, I have to know what you were worried about, which is totally relatable, of course.
Totally, of course.
It takes discipline. And I think hopefully some listeners hearing this might recognize the shift that we're talking about.
Right.
A lot of parents who listen to us and are trying to encourage emotional literacy and self-awareness, this is like an easy way to get tripped up. Because if you haven't yet recognized the difference between the pattern of the emotion versus the content of what triggered the emotional reaction, you're going to get stuck here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because again, let me say, like this mom clearly has been doing a lot of things right because her daughter is able to say, I'm stressed, I'm going to do something that's going to help, and then I can come back and problem solve. When we get pulled into the content, a lot of times it's because we want to jump in and problem solve. So say the daughter had said, well, I'm really stressed about this math project. Mom's first instinct might be, well, let me help you with the math project. Or I'm going to figure this out for you. Or I'm going to jump in. And what we really saw was some really great level of autonomy.
I would say half the parents are trying to problem solve. And then I would say the other half, coming from a more anxious tendency that I would have in this situation, is simply wanting to know. I just want the information, but I don't need it. And yet I still seek it. And that's where I have to have the discipline too. So like you might not even try and problem solve. You're just like, no, I want to know what's going on with you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I think we can totally relate to that. Like when my son was going through his bad breakup and he was sad, and I could see that he was sad, I might say, hey, you look really sad. And then I might say, is there anything that I can do? Or I'd really want to say, what are you sad about? Please tell me what's going on. I want to know the details because I don't like sitting here watching you feel this way. And so I want to get in there and it makes me nervous that I don't know what's going on. I mean, I can totally relate to that. And what I had to do, which took a lot of discipline, and I was probably good at it about 80% of the time, was to say, I can see that you're really sad. You know I'm here if you need me. As my friend says, which is a wonderful thing to say, is there anything I can do that's in my power to help? So you're offering your support, you're offering your assistance, but you're not jumping in with your own anxiety, like you say, to know exactly what's going on. And that is so hard. The other thing too is if we talk about teenagers, they may know what's going on and they may say, no, I got this. I don't want to share this with you. I can handle this. If you have a little kid who's upset, they might truly not know. They're developing that emotional awareness. So you might say, oh, you look so sad. Why are you so sad? And they might say like, I don't know. And they really mean it. And it may be because they're hungry. It may be because there's a lot of things going on. It may be because they didn't get enough sleep. It may be because somebody hurt their feelings, but they don't really know how to articulate that. There is a difference in the way that little kids handle this versus teenagers, for sure.
So today we're going to talk about the parental inquisition.
The parental inquisition.
And how do we do it from a place of constructive assistance that's age appropriate? And then when do we learn to let them have their own autonomy and back off? This is going to be unique to each kid, also unique to what the parent's bringing. But this is, I think, relevant no matter what age your child is.
Yeah, so that's exactly correct. I have adult children, and I'll just tell you just a very funny example that just happened is that my son just texted me and said, I'm going to be in Concord for an appointment. He doesn't live in Concord. And can I stop by? I immediately wanted to say, what kind of appointment? Why are you in Concord for an appointment? Right? I immediately wanted to know that information.
But you didn't ask?
No, I didn't ask. I made a joke saying something along the lines of, oh, I wonder why you're in Concord. Ha, ha, ha. Yeah, he didn't tell me.
Well, humor can always be good. Did he offer or did he make you suffer?
No, he's making me suffer. So in my family, right, as we're talking about parental inquisition, I'm the only girl and I get accused of being nosy all the time because I ask questions. This is something that in terms of the parental inquisition, if we're talking about wanting to know, wanting to have information, wanting to know the details, I absolutely fall into that category. And I have to use my restraint of not asking too much. Me asking him about this, me making an inquisition about why he's in town for an appointment is a joke because I get accused of being nosy. It's a hard thing to not want to ask your kids all these questions and to find out exactly what's going on, especially as they get older. They're doing more things and they need more autonomy.
I really have to pay attention to hydrating properly. I work out a lot. I talk all the time, as you know. I am pretty active and I don't drink enough water. So I'm constantly thinking about how it is that I am going to hydrate in the best way possible. And I'll tell you, if my water has a little bit of flavor, it's so much easier for me. And if I can get those electrolytes, if I can get more bang for my buck, it's just so much better. I have been using liquid IV. I put it into a huge glass. I put it into the refrigerator. It's cold. It's very tasty. I've been putting it in my water bottle when I go to the gym. The packaging is so convenient. I actually look forward to drinking it, which is not something that comes naturally to me. I love the lemon lime flavor. They've got a sugar-free option that is really great. So I think that if you're somebody like me that has a difficult time getting in the amount of hydration that you need for your body, liquid IV is a great option. One stick, 16 ounces of water, it hydrates better than water alone. It's got 3 times the electrolytes of the leading sports drink, and it doesn't have all that sugar. It doesn't have artificial sweeteners, 8 vitamins and nutrients just for your everyday wellness. It's non-GMO and free from gluten, dairy, and soy. However you hydrate, grab your liquid IV hydration multiplier, sugar-free in bulk, nationwide at Costco, or get 20% off your first order when you go to liquidiv.com and use code Fluster at checkout. That's 20% off your first order when you shop Better Hydration today using promo code Fluster at liquidiv.com.
May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and Talkspace, the leading virtual therapy provider, is encouraging people to talk it out in therapy. Opening up to a therapist might feel uncomfortable, cathartic, exhausting, or exhilarating. But one thing's certain: if you keep talking or texting with a licensed therapist, you gain insights and uncover truths that you can only find in therapy. Get those personal breakthroughs and judgment-free support by signing up for Talkspace. At Talkspace.com, sign up online and get a personalized match with a provider that's right for you, typically within 48 hours. It's incredibly convenient. You have virtual sessions with your licensed therapist from the comfort of your home, your car, your office. There's no need to commute to appointments or miss time at work or line up childcare in order to attend your sessions. This is mental health care made easy. To celebrate May, Mental Health Awareness Month, and the power of talking it out in therapy, Talkspace is offering every Flusterclux listener $80 off your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com/fluster. To match with a licensed therapist today, go to Talkspace.com/fluster to get $80 off your first month with code SPACE80 and to discover the positive power of therapy. That's Talkspace.com/fluster, code SPACE80. You know, when you're listening to a song on the radio and you just have this feeling that the song was written about you, or that it was someone that you love trying to say something to you? Well, now imagine the power to gift that same incredible feeling to someone you love with an original song that actually is about them and about your relationship, and that Songfinch writes just for you. Songfinch lets you create an original radio quality song inspired by your own life and the people that you love. It's completely unique, it's personal, and it lasts forever. I had the pleasure of creating a family song with Songfinch about our summer celebrations that we have every year. I knew it was going to make everybody cry, and it certainly did. I got to be honest, I was even crying, giving all of the information and helping personalize my song with the writer that I chose. He absolutely delivered a beautiful acoustic song that captured exactly what I was looking for, and it was so fun to share with the family. So whether your song is for Father's Day, an upcoming graduation, a wedding or an anniversary, or even just a gift to show your loved one how much you care, start your song now to lock in one of Songfinch's top artists. Don't waste another dollar on more stuff. It only takes 4 to 7 days, but that song will last forever. For a limited time, Songfinch is letting our listeners upload their song to Spotify for free, so you and the lucky person or people can listen to it anywhere, anytime. So go to songfinch.com/fluster and start your song. After you purchase, you'll be prompted to add Spotify streaming for your original song for free, a $50 value. Again, the URL is songfinch.com/fluster. Don't forget to share your song with us too in our Facebook group, songfinch.com/fluster.
Okay, we're back. And I think the other thing that's challenging about this too is that when we're talking about how much our kids divulge to us and the parental inquisition, is that there is also a relationship between how much you ask. If they say, oh, I had a fight with my friend at school, or, oh, my teacher was so mean to me, and you dive in and you react and your anxiety comes through and you're like, oh my God, what happened? What did that teacher say to you? Do you want me to do something? Then it is more likely that they're going to start to pull back and not share as much information with you. There's a real dynamic that happens between how much a child shares. And if we think about where we want to go with it, if we think about what our goal is, then we have to pay attention to our inquisition.
What would a goal be when you have, let's just say, a 21-year-old child? And then let's start and work backwards. What are the steps that happen in order to get there?
So I would say a goal with a 21-year-old child, and remember, kids are different and personalities are different, is that you have a child that feels that they can come to you with something they're struggling with, or a question they have, or a frustration. They can come to you with some sort of emotional problem and also just a logistical problem. They know that you are a good listener, that you will hear the information, and that you will be able to take it in and you will be able to hear what they are asking for. Because when an anxious parent starts asking questions, then it becomes your agenda of what you need to hear and of what you want to do to respond. Learning that when a child, whatever age, but say we've got this 21-year-old, comes to you with a problem, they're coming to you because they trust that you are going to listen, that you are going to collaborate, and that you are going to pay attention to what they are asking for. So it's not your agenda, it's their agenda.
What I love about that is that's completely consistent with what you've said in parenting of every age, because it's centering the child's needs instead of your own. You have that expression, you be vanilla ice cream. This isn't about you. It's having like years of practice of being in that conversation where your anxiety isn't driving it, where you're present and you're listening.
Right. Because remember, if we look at anxiety, if we look at worry, what's the process that drives it? It's promoting things to an emergency that are not an emergency. And so when your child comes to you with a problem and wants either for you to be a sounding board or wants to get some advice from you or needs you to help problem solve, as soon as you promote it to an emergency, as soon as you start peppering them with questions, as soon as you start getting anxious or feeling like you need to jump in and solve the problem and save the day, you are modeling how anxiety works. Anxiety takes problems that are not an emergency and promotes them to an emergency. And the type of questioning that we do absolutely can convey where you're at. For example, say your teenager says to you, "Oh gosh, mom, I just had this really weird interaction with this guy at school." Now, everyone just take a moment and think about what would be the anxiety conveying response that you would have to that. If you were going to get anxious about that, if this was going to trip your trigger, what would your response be?
Tell me everything.
Yeah. Oh my God. Right. Do you know this person? Yeah. Who is this person? Do you know this person? Have you ever talked to them before? Yeah.
What did they say? Right. You want to know every detail.
Every detail. Okay. So now think about the answer that you want to have that conveys or that opens up a conversation so that you can give your child what they're looking for in that moment.
Are you quizzing me?
Well, I'm pausing so that people can think, I'll give you music. Da, 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 da. I'm not quizzing you because I know you know it.
Well, wouldn't the response just be to, oh, what happened?
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh gosh, what happened? Or, oh, do you want to tell me about it? You're inviting them into a conversation rather than having them participate in your anxious interrogation. It's the same thing like if you have a physical problem. If a kid comes to you and says, "Mommy, my tummy hurts," or "Mommy, I think I have something in my eye," the anxious response, "Oh my God, what's wrong?" versus, "Oh, let's take a look at it."
Right. Let's pause for 1 second and incorporate that original story about that mom and daughter you started with. The thing that happened in that scenario where truthfully that 15-year-old hit it out of the park. She was upset, but she was aware that she was upset and then did something about it. There are going to be other 15-year-olds and 10-year-olds and 5-year-olds. They're upset, but they're in it. They don't realize that they're so upset. And what is the way that you can help them create the skill of distancing themselves between that, or being able to just verbalize, "Oh yeah, I am really upset. I am really angry." I mean, that's still a skill some 15-year-olds need.
Right. So say you've got a 15-year-old who comes home and you can tell like they're slamming things around, or they've got a look on their face, or they're trying to do their work and they've got their head in their hands, or they're crying and they're not saying anything to you. And you could say to them, "It looks like you're upset about something," or, "Hey, are you having a rough go?" Or, "Is there anything you want to talk to me about?" And then at that moment, they could say like, "No, I'm fine." And they might say like, "You should just leave me alone." Or they might say, "Why do you always think that I'm upset about something when I'm not?" It's sort of like the,
gee, I wonder why.
Yeah, right. It's sort of like the little kid when you say like, "It looks like you're tired." And they're like, "I'm not tired." So in that moment, that's your opportunity to say, well, I'm looking at you and I'm seeing your face, or I'm hearing what you're saying, or I'm actually seeing the tears coming out of your eyeballs. I am here. If you need help getting through this, just let me know if I can do anything. Now, I find that in the moment, so when that child is really upset, when they're really shut down, when they're crying, when they're mad, that is not the time to ask a lot of questions. This is where talk 85% less comes in handy. But what you're doing is you're saying to them, I see that you're upset or frustrated or sad or whatever, and I am modeling for you the space and the opportunity to figure this out and then use me if you need to. So you say something, I can see that you're really sad, and I just want to let you know if you want to talk to me about it, I can help you with that. And if they may rebuff you, they may say, I don't want to talk to you about it. And you say, okay. And then you might say, sometimes time helps. Or you might say, I wonder if there's somebody else you can talk to about it. Because what you're teaching them is emotional management. So you might say, I know that in the past when you've been really frustrated, going out for a walk with the dog really helps. I know sometimes when you've been really sad about something, I know that listening to music or fill in the blank can really help. So those are just some ideas. Or you might even say, gosh, when I get really frustrated, I find that blah, blah, blah. So you just offer suggestions. You're just giving them information.
This seems like older kids. Can we make the kid 5, 6, 7, or 8?
Yeah, 5, 6, 7, or 8. So they're like sad, they're upset, they're throwing a temper tantrum, they just got their feelings hurt, they just got rejected by somebody, and they're just, they're just in that place. And that's when you just say, it looks like you're really sad. Is there anything I can do? And then sometimes just sitting with a kid, just sitting with a child, and maybe just giving them a hug or saying, do you want to read a book together? Or maybe we can go outside. Offer 2 or 3 possible options to help them deal with their feelings. You're basically giving them the language of emotional management by saying, 1, I can see that you're feeling blank, and I know that this sometimes helps you. Sometimes this helps me. Would you like to do that with me? Or can I help you do that? And then if they still say no, well, they're just not in a place yet. They're still learning. And so you just provide a steady presence. Your job is to be a steady presence. Your job is to be that vanilla ice cream. And then once they shift out of it, because remember, feelings come and go. Your role is to not freak out because they're having feelings or try and get rid of the feelings or ask a gazillion questions to try and uncover what the feelings are about. That's our instinct for sure. But after their feelings wane a little bit, after they manage to get through them, a little post-game analysis is really helpful. Gosh, you know what? You were so sad. Then I saw that you were running around playing with the cat, and then you started to feel better. And you might even say, how did you do that? So you just want to illustrate for them. You just want to take note for them of how they succeeded at emotional management. And maybe you have a kid who's not really very good at that. So they get angry and they stay angry for hours and hours and hours. I've had clients like that. They just sulk. They sort of get into it. They're in their room and it's sort of like they're determined to stay mad about something. Then you can check in periodically and ask those how questions. How might we help you shift out of this?
Both of my kids responded very well to physical affection, and not every kid does. So in those moments as a child, it would be very easy to say, let's just sit here. We don't have to talk about it. Just come and sit on my lap for a second. Just come sit next to me and we can talk about it later. Give them that physical touch connection where then they just sort of mellow out a little bit.
Right. And so your kid. I think that's a very good example of you doing something that is connecting, that is you are offering something, but you are not stuck in your agenda of trying to figure out what's wrong, getting the details, and then stepping in and solving the problem.
Right. Isn't the agenda in that moment as a parent, what can I do to facilitate my kid feeling more grounded and not in that big emotion. That's the agenda.
Right, because the whole process that we're looking at is how do you go from feeling sad, mad, angry, frustrated to figuring out how to work through that and get to the other side. When we look at severe disorders or when we look at diagnosable disorders, when somebody has anxiety, when somebody has depression, that's the very thing that they have trouble with, is that the feelings, the state, the thoughts feel more permanent, get more habitual. It becomes a chronic state of feeling this way. So the more that we let kids go through the process of, I feel badly, and then I work through it and I come out of it, that's a normal process of emotional management, which is very different than saying, I want my child to be happy all the time. A teacher told me, I was giving a talk the other night, and a teacher came up and we were chatting before the presentation. And she said that a child came into her first grade class and the parent said to her, I just want to let you know my child has never been disappointed. And that's my expectation.
Oh, good luck with that.
Yeah, that's the teacher was like, oh my God. Yeah. But the normal healthy process is I feel something. I recognize the feeling. Maybe I know what it's about. Maybe I don't. Depends on age and situation. And then I know the ways that help me move through the feeling, and I know I can get to the other side. If I'm talking to a depressed kid, the most important message that I'm giving them is that there are things that you do that make your mood worse. There are things that you do that make your mood better. And we're learning how to navigate those different feelings, those changes, so that you don't begin to believe that this feeling state is permanent. And that's where the parental interrogation, why are you feeling this way? We have to solve the problem. We have to get rid of it, versus it's okay that you're feeling this way. And let's talk about how you're going to move through it.
There's actually like a very common video of a 2-year-old who's totally freaking out. And her brother's like, did you have a nap today? And she's like, I didn't. And he's like, you need one. If we're starting there, the goal is really to get to where that 15-year-old demonstrated. So we're showing kids how to ground themselves basically in these moments. That is the foundation of emotional management, because as any of the big feelings come, anger, sadness, disappointment, all of those things, they learn how to ground themselves. It's as a parent, we're consciously thinking about, how do I model, come here and sit on my lap and we'll sit here for a second, to eventually getting that teenager or young adult saying, man, I've had a really bad day at school. I think I'm going to run a bath and read a book. I think I'm going to go for a walk. It's modeling that. And you mentioned once they hit a certain age, you want to start saying to them, this is how I feel better in those situations.
Yeah. So the process is that we want kids to recognize that I'm going to feel these emotions. Some of them are going to be big. Some of them are going to be small, but I'm going to feel these emotions. I'm going to identify them or be able to articulate them sometimes. And that's emotional literacy. That's a skill we build over time. And then I'm going to know how to get through them. And perhaps most importantly, I'm going to know that we get through them. Because it is the permanence, it is the freak out, it is the I can't feel this way, it's the intolerance of the emotion. I have to get rid of the emotion that really creates more and more problems.
Like self-medication.
Yeah, self-medication, or the belief that this is who they are, that they begin to identify themselves as a person who, all of that language of permanence. This 15-year-old did such a good job of, I have this emotion, I'm frustrated about something. It seemed as if she could identify what it was that was making her frustrated about, why she was feeling that frustration. She then had some skills to go and manage that emotion, get to a place where then she could come back and tackle the problem. I mean, what a wonderful sequence that is. The parental interrogation says to a child, you're having this emotion. We need to figure out right now what's going on. And I need to step in and fix it because this makes me very uncomfortable because you're very uncomfortable. It is the ability to tolerate our kids feeling uncomfortable that allows them the practice to then be able to get to the other side. We want kids to know that if you have a problem, if you feel uncomfortable, if you're having an emotion, we can get to the other side. That's the key.
Lynn, although we don't have a lot of guests I love that you have curated the guests who are the best on their topic.
One of the things that I really enjoy is talking to people who are really good at what they do because they just have so much information to share. And that's what you get with Masterclass. You're actually learning from people who have expertise, knowledge. I will tell you, I watched the class of Bobbi Brown and how to put on makeup, not something I'm good at. So instructive.
So this year, you can learn from the best to become your best with Masterclass with over 180 world-class instructors. So whether you want to master negotiation, makeup application, or interior design, Masterclass has you covered.
With Masterclass, you get unlimited access to intimate one-on-one classes with the world's best. There are over 200 classes to pick from. New classes added every month.
And every membership comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee, so there's no risk.
And right now, our listeners will get an additional 15% off an annual membership at masterclass.com/fluster. Get 15% off right now at masterclass.com/fluster.
That's masterclass.com/fluster.
Hi there, I'm Andrea Owen, self-help author with 19 translations of my books, global keynote speaker, and life coach. My podcast, Make Some Noise, has been serving up self-help in a simple-to-digest way for the last decade. The topics brought in each episode are practical and easy to implement around topics such as working through fears that keep you stuck, different modalities of therapy, managing your negative self-talk, and more. We bring you guest experts, solo episodes, and I even coach listeners on the air around relatable struggles. I also do my best to weave my sense of humor into some heavy topics because, let's face it, life can be pretty hard, and it's so much better when we can have some fun while walking through our challenges. Whether you're seasoned in personal development or just starting out, Make Some Noise podcast will help you become the best version of yourself, the person you're proud of when you look in the mirror and show up in your life. Simply search Make Some Noise with Andrea Owen wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Okay, so now back to the show.
I love this conversation because it proves a couple of things that we always say. We are all works in progress. We don't ever reach a finish line with this. We know these things, some of us, but that doesn't mean that we do them without a lot of work, a lot of practice, and then we don't do them and we have to try again.
Well, it's the driving analogy that I use all the time, is that even if you're a really good experienced driver, you don't get in your car and hold your steering wheel and press the gas and just go down the road. You're constantly adjusting. You're taking your foot off the gas. You're paying attention to other traffic around you. There are different conditions. You're slowing down. You're speeding up. Even if you're going on a long straight road, you're still making adjustments. And that's what parenting is, and that's what emotional management is. There's one more example of the parental interrogation, I think, that we can just sort of close on, basically, is that when you pick your child up after school, particularly if they're going through a rough patch, if they're having some difficulty with friends, or they don't like their teacher, or they're taking a course that they don't like, or they have to do something that's stressful, like give a presentation or play their clarinet, when they get in the car, oftentimes the parental interrogation starts because you're anxious about how their day went. So you say, how did it go? Was Amanda mean to you? Did the teacher say anything to you? What did that kid say? Did you see that kid in the hallway? And you start asking these leading questions that, again, promote something to an emergency. And those aren't questions that allow your child to share what's going on. And maybe they handled something. Maybe they didn't. But that parental interrogation, for one, it says to the kid at the end of the day, so your day must have gone badly. I better ask these urgent questions because this is an emergency. This is a problem we have to deal with. And kids that get that interrogation, I can tell you from lots of experience, will stop offering information. Concrete tip, parent, if your child is having a tough time at school, and even if they're not, and the first thing that you do when you see them at the end of the day, whether they're coming in the door off the bus or you're picking them up after school or whatever, if you start interrogating them in that way, even if you just say like me, oh, I'm just curious, I just want the information, you got to give them some space. So I would say instead, you just say to them, don't even ask a question. Here's the challenge. Don't even ask a question. Say, Oh, just make an observation. Say, oh my gosh, your cheeks are so red and rosy. It looks like you had a great time at recess. Or just say, oh, it's nice to see your face.
You said something a long time ago to me that I really loved. When your child is gathering the verbal skills to start telling you stories, and they have a lot that they want to tell you about a Lego or something, and these are stories that require a lot of focus and patience to absorb when they're like 3 or 4.
Yeah.
You always say how you show up in that moment is really creating the groundwork for how you and your child communicate. Treat it like it's important. Treat it like that thing they want to tell you about the Lego is really important, because that Lego will one day be a conflict with someone at school or feelings of romance they want to tell you about. We have to be really present with them and let them tell us the stories they're choosing to tell us.
Right. So we are listeners, we are absorbers. Yeah, what's important to them now is important to them now. And so now it's Legos, like you say, and then 10 years from now, it's going to be my friends are smoking pot. It's being able to, like you say, Robin, show up and listen and absorb. The key thing here, I think the key message is that your desire to know all of the details so that you can fix the problem, so that you can worry about the problem, so that you can step in and take over the problem, so that you can promote the problem, not on purpose, but so you can promote the problem to an emergency or a crisis. All of that gets in the way of the skill that we want our children to develop, just like that 15-year-old was developing. And that's what I said to that mom. I said, you should be sitting here absolutely basking in the pride of a mom who has a 15-year-old who is able to move through that process. It's just that you want to know all the details and you don't need to. She felt like that was an important part of the process, and I had to tell her that it wasn't.
My daughter's going off to college in another country next year, and I'm really going to see how much I'm talking the talk and walking the walk in the fall.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's what I mean. This is going to take a lot of skills that I've learned from you in this podcast of hearing the stories that she's wanting to tell me in the timeline that she chooses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's it right there. And sometimes parents will say, oh my gosh, you're saying all these things and this is exactly what I do. I ask all these questions. I interrogate. How do I do it differently? I think I've screwed up my kid. And I often just tell your kid, say, oh gosh, you know what I realized? Like I just ask a ton of questions and I've been thinking about this. So I'm really going to work on this. I want you to call me out. When I start interrogating you or if I start asking too many questions, I want you to call me out. Being transparent with your kids and saying, God, I was doing this thing and I know it drove you crazy and I didn't realize it and now I do. And so give me some grace here as I work on this is a very mature and wonderful and bonding thing that you can do. You can do that with your kids. It also is a great thing that you do with any relationship you have. If you are thinking about this with your partner, you say to them, God, I've been doing this thing and I realize it's so annoying and I'm really working on it. So let me know. That is a wonderfully bonding, connecting thing to say and do. Thanks for listening. And if you found this podcast helpful, please give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. It helps other people find this information.
And if you'd like to dig deeper on any of these topics, we have specialized playlists on our Spotify profile, and the link is in the show notes. Topics like teens, depression, and OCD. Bye, Lynn.
Bye, Robin.
I'm Margaret.
And I'm Amy.
And together we host the podcast, What Fresh Hell? Laughing in the Face of Motherhood.
Margaret, I would say you're sort of a where are my keys kind of mom.
Correct. Sometimes a where are my kids kind of mom. Well, you're, Amy, more of a we were supposed to leave 35 seconds ago, mom.
I mean, touche. In each episode of What Fresh Hell, we come at a topic from our usually completely opposite perspectives. I bring the research.
And I bring kind of the gimlet eye. Like, is that research really going to work, people?
And almost 10 million downloads later, we're still laughing.
We also talk to experts in the parenting field, plus parents with stories we can all learn from.
We make each other laugh, we challenge each other's assumptions, and we have what we think is the best parenting community on the internet.
Check out What Fresh Hell, Laughing in the Face of Motherhood, wherever you listen to podcasts.